So on Thursday, a grand jury releases an interim report on Epic charter schools. So I did not read all of this, but to inform the public, parents, and policymakers regarding concerning trends which are emerging in the investigation.
So the main thing is that this jury found that Epic Charter Schools is in an incestuous relationship with, that is a direct quote.
Yeah.
That's
Here it
just not
is.
me being kinky. With their like founder's company.
Yes.
Which is another reason why I can't stand charter schools.
Right. And this is where I get really cross with the charter people, because their argument is that charters are actually more accountable because people can vote with their feet and, leave, I guess. And that's the ultimate accountability is you can just pull your kid out and hold them accountable. The problem is like the average consumer does not understand how all that goes into schools. Like they just drop their kid off and pick their kid up, or log in and log out. Like they don't know that you buy curriculum and that you train teachers and you have to do payroll and we don't know the inner workings. Like we don't know if you're doing a good job, if you're doing a bad job. Like, so we need regulators or a bureaucracy or something to keep you guys accountable. And the issue I have with charter schools is, one, they have an unelected board. So like a school district has elections. Like if you are mad at the superintendent or mad at some teacher or mad at something that happened, you can go to your elected board member and petition them because they are the government. You have a right to petition them to redress your grievances under the First Amendment. So that is the accountability, it's an election. Charter schools, on the other hand, are just ego trips. Like it is a dude, or usually sometimes women, but it's somebody that goes out and says, I'm going to start a charter school. I know better than all these other people. I'm going to get a board together. Often they're friends, people they know that support their idea. And we're going to do this thing. And it runs like a private company. I mean, maybe it's a nonprofit. In Epic's case, it is not nonprofit. Like it's a for-profit company that runs it, but it's a company. And guess who its allegiance is to? The company. Like it's not a public good anymore. It is a private company that it's invested in itself. And so when you start running into problems, guess who it's looking out for? Not you. And so yeah, so the whole idea that somehow being private makes these guys more accountable is insane and totally untrue. It makes them less accountable. It makes them accountable. And in the case of Epic, who is growing massively and has a for-profit private company sucking up all this money, they're incentivized to just take as many kids as they can and to hell with what happens,
Yeah.
outcomes.
And it's one thing that the pandemic has taught us is that online schools don't work as well. They don't function as effectively as brick and mortar schools. And yes, there are charter schools that are brick and mortar schools and things like that. But it's in the case of Epic, it's not providing the services that a normal school, public school would facilitate.
And so I've got up on the screen the recommendations from Thursday's grand jury report. Legislative Office of Fiscal Transparency should conduct an evaluation of Epic charter schools and report their findings to the Oklahoma legislature for all the good that's going to do, because, Epic spends hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in political contributions and in independent expenditures and in, rigging the game for them to do what they want. Immediate disclosure and acknowledgement that any funds provided for the education of students, including the Student Learning Fund, are public funds and must be easily reviewed and reconciled. So that's one of the biggest sticking points, because there was an auditor report released, last year, or maybe even longer. Pandemic times got my brain gone, but that said that one of the biggest concerns is the Epic, out of the per pupil amount that they get for each student, they retain like $1,000 of it to a private company for student activity funds. And this is a fund that is supposed to be spent on, materials, extracurricular activities that, a virtual school won't provide, but they'll give parents some money to go and do that. But my complaint with it from a policy standpoint is that it's a process. And anytime you create a process, you have people that won't do it. And the more cantankerous you make that process, the less people will do it. And so I have done some Googling and looked at this, and I will just say, in the absence of lots of evidence from Epic, I am extremely skeptical that this $1,000 is getting spent on students in any meaningful way. And I wouldn't be surprised to find out that very little is getting spent, because it's like you have to go and do this thing and then submit a receipt and get your money. And I don't know, maybe there are lots of parents out there that are super on the ball and doing all this shit. But based on Epic's graduation rates, based on their test scores, based on how many kids boomerang back into public schools, I'm telling you, there are a lot of parents that are like, good luck, Johnny. Don't forget to log in today. I'll be home at 5 o'clock when I get off work. And they ain't checking in or doing any of that shit. I mean, and so if you have to go through this complicated receipt process to get that $1,000, they ain't doing it. And where's that money going? Fucking possibly directly into Epic's pockets. And when you calculate the number of students they have times $1,000, you're talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars that nobody has any fucking idea where it's at. Mm-hmm. And that's bad. I mean, if a school district was doing that, like, they would all go to jail. Like, a traditional school district, if you were embezzling that level of money, you would be immediately sent to prison. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's just is wild to me what Epic is able to get away with.